guys, it's Tyra here with another struggle review. I'd like to welcome you guys back to my channel. Before we get started with this review, I just want to say that episode 5 was everything I thought it was going to be. I told y'all niggas. Y'all thought I was lying, but I told y'all. I told y'all Ruby's skin was going to come into play this episode. You know what? Don't even matter. Before we get started with this episode, I'm going to need you guys to go and subscribe. You know, it's free. So let me give you a minute to do that. Then we're going to come back. We're going to talk. Go ahead. So we pick up with this episode right where we, well, not right where we left off, but we pick up with Ruby. Not really Ruby. Last episode, we saw that Ruby wasn't really envious of white, well, not at their skin color, but at the fact that they could be treated fairly, be first, not have to, you know, work as hard. You just it because of your skin color, which she told to William Christina. But Ruby wakes up and it's clearly not her body. It's a white woman's body. It's the woman from the second episode when they went to Artem, you know, the slave ass catcher looking lady with the dogs and the whistle that Letty knocked out when they were trying to rescue Montrose. She wakes up in her body and does not know what to do with herself. Is out wandering the street, and we get this. I mean, I'm all for the depiction of racist police officers, but it's almost cartoonish the way it's portrayed here. Not that it's particularly, it's not bad, but because we know that it was horrible. The treatment was horrible. The corruption of officers towards Black people was horrible, but the depiction here is like every episode it gets worse and worse. Like the way that they approached the young teen boy who was, you know, trying to help her because she was running on the street, it was just really cartoonish for me. I don't know if it was bad acting or I just okay. But you know, they take Ruby and tell her, you know, we're gonna take you to your husband, which we know is William, who's clearly done this to her. Sorcery. But she there's a clearly a sense of change and morphing. You know, when we open with the LoveCraft country, we see, you know, butterflies and Letty, you know, her hair turning into butterflies. You know, she's morphing. She has the ability apparently to morph into something else from the looks of this white woman. But William proceeds to cut the flesh off and we're back to Ruby again. So Ruby is just inside, not morphed completely into a white woman. She's literally just inside of a white woman's skin, which is what she kind of asked for, you know, last episode. You know, if I could do that, I could be first. Cuts her open, opens her up. We're Ruby again. Okay. Cut to, you know, Montrose. Grimy Montrose. Last episode, he murdered, you know, the woman, and they found the pages. You know, they have this big plan. You know, I'm going to teach her some English. We're going to do this and go and do this so we can encrypt these pages. I'm trying to get this power. Montrose doesn't really have to say too much. Tick already knows. You know, Letty's like, you just let her run off. Tick is like, you mother. Instantly pounces. And we get back to that reference to a history of violence. Tick only knows violence. Montrose only knows violence from his father and probably his father before him. So it's been passed down from the grandfather to Montrose's father to now Montrose to now Tick. Tick immediately whooped his, not that he didn't deserve that, but Ruby gets in the office to, you know, apply for the job with this overwhelming resume that she had, same resume she had as a Black woman, because she wanted to be, you know, extra prepared. Like they can't turn me down, those old bootstraps. Long as I, try and do my best, why shouldn't I get it? But just going in there with the backdrop of her being a white woman, the resume just looked 10 times better. But we see that Ruby has renamed herself Haley. And, he's getting more into the backstory. How do you feel about working with other colored women? And Ruby's like, gives the answer that she would give as a black woman. Why shouldn't they give the same opportunities that we take advantage of as whites? But as she's getting more into the interview, and you got it. Not only did you get a job there, you're immediately the assistant manager. She could never be that in her current skin. But as she's talking, and oh my God, we start to morph. We can't get out of there quick enough. And we get a really good look at her morphing this time. She literally physically dies. Because we didn't really get to see that in the beginning of the episode with William kind of cutting her open and, pretty much shedding like a caterpillar, a cocoon-esque situation. No, we literally see the white woman's body die off of her. I really want to know why it had to be that white woman in particular and just not any white woman, because we're familiar with her already. Montrose goes to meet up with the bartender that we became familiar with in the first episode. Tick went to him, looking for Montrose. And we find out that it's not just a rumor. It's just not something that Tree decided to sprinkle in the air to get under Tick's skin. Montrose is gay or bisexual or the spectrum. He has an ongoing, a relationship with him, because as soon as he opens the door, he says, who was it this time? The O-phase or, the N-words. Like, this is something they frequently do. Him coming, probably not, sure they're not dating, especially at those times. They're not dating, they're not out, they're not proud. This doesn't seem like something that Montrose is too proud of himself. But he's clearly met up with him frequently. But it seems like he only met up with him when he was just at his wit's end and down and out, or downtrodden and drunk, beat up. But he goes in there. Did y'all see the spit? I was like, whew. It was so immediate. I was like, it very much reminded me of Tick and Letty's first time. Like, it was this brute force. Like, where's the finesse? God, that loogie, because it was like he brought that up from somewhere, and this brute force, and it's passionate, for, I really should learn his name, the bartender, but after he clearly ejaculates and has all this this love for him, he turns around to embrace him and love him and share some of this same affection that he feels like Montrose is giving him, which is clearly just a F for Montrose. He won't even kiss the man. Like, we can do all of this. You can, help me, probably put some ice on my eye later, but this isn't that. This is what it is. Let's keep it here. And proceeds to preferably give the man oral sex. So it's like, this is all I want. This is all I'm here for. I don't want anything beyond this. I don't want a relationship with you. Letty goes to check on Tick, and this is what it is, my quagmire. Giggity. We get a little making up, and she lets him know, that it's scary to see you like that. And we get that history of violence. Like, this is what I was brought up in, but I don't want you to be scared of me. I don't want you to think of me that way. And we get a little love scene, whole lot of love. A lot more finessing than there was last time, which was nice to see. little participant. I'm like, all right, Letty, better take that bustier off, whatever it is. I don't know. But we cut back to Ruby, who clearly had a wonderful day in her skin. And we find out that, because Ruby is this is not out of character for her, because there's an allure there. There's something that she really wants being given, but she's not naive by far. So she knows none of this is free. You want something. So what do you want? And William says, I'm going to need your help with a favor for a lady friend of mine. I'm sure it's Christina. When the time comes. But until then, you revel in this. We get, what's next? Of course, what's next? What did Ruby want to begin with? This job at Marshall Field's department store. And then we get a little, I got bands in the coop. Hey, busting out the roof. I got bands in the coop. Hey, touch me, I'll shoot. Bow, shake a little ass. Hey, get a little bag, send it to the money. I love when we get the little punches of contemporary music to the backdrop of the time period. We go back to Ruby, who has clearly found her place in her job. She's starting. And we get yet another inappropriate situation with her boss. We already had that long, inappropriate hug that no one should get as a first hire. Like, why are you embracing me? And now we have a kiss on the hand. Okay. But Ruby finds out that Tamra, the black hire, does not have a formal education. And at this point, Ruby kind of begins to treat her the same way that she would be treated with her education or without it. She is really feeling the skin that she's in. But her skin is just her skin. Her inward appearance, that's still Ruby. So Ruby genuinely had those feelings about her only having a 7th grade education. Like, why should you get this opportunity? You didn't go to, the Frederick Douglass School and take, night classes. You didn't even try. Why should you have this? We go back into, storage in the department store, and the ladies are in the back, laxing and trying on stuff. And at this point, we see that Ruby only thought about the positive aspects of being in that skin. She didn't think about the things she would have to endure with people saying stuff that they would normally say during those times. Those remarks that were towards her in her race. But, they're praising Ruby. Haley. She got some switch in those hips. Like, oh, girl, you got rhythm. And they're listening to, this white rendition of Tutti Frutti. Yeah. But, they're obsessed. And, oh, my God, you think that Tammy would, take us to the South Side, With her uneducated ass, you think she would take us to the South Side? And immediately, she is really in that skin. She is really in that skin. Why would you want to go over there? It has nothing to offer. That's where you're from, Ruby. We leave the department store, and Ruby is met with William, who is out waiting for her cat daddy in the parking lot. And, they're all in love, because Dreamboat, very handsome. Still Christina. But he informs her, I need that favor. Opens the box. It's a maid's uniform. And we know at this point how Ruby feels about being a maid. About domestic work in general. About being somebody's maid. We don't want to do that. Ruby shows up to the captain's party disguised as herself, dressed like a maid. Now, good idea. Of course, Christina, this being a men's only club, cannot move in these spaces. William cannot move in these spaces. Who can move in these spaces undetected? Because who's gonna think that the help, can do anything, adhere to anything? They're even snapping at her. And Ruby's waiting, where she's supposed to be here an hour ago. Maybe she takes a while to transform. I don't know. But Christina, says, if you care anything about William beyond what he can do for you, you do this. She wants her to hide a rock, what it looks like, rock, stone, in the captain's office. Ruby's a little iffy. Like, you're trying to get me in trouble. But she goes on this little story of, him being the rightful owner to this lodge, and they, tried to murder him and take it away from him, but he's still alive, and I'm trying to help him. Y'all not gonna trick me, okay? Same damn person. William is Christina. We cut back to Tick and Letty looking at these pages that we, learned earlier that thankfully she took pictures of before they were disposed of by Montrose. While she's, developing the film, Tick is having a nightmare where his grandmother is trying to tell him something. It's, the same scenario where she was running out and the house is burning down. He's no longer wearing that robe, though. He's wearing just like a suit, suspenders, whole situation. She's trying to say something, but he can't hear her. And he starts to, his whole body begins to light on fire and he's burning and he just wakes up. They're looking at the pages, trying to encrypt them and going over what could be this language. And Tick says that, it might be old, like, Chinese language, which he probably knows, him being in war over there. And Letty goes on about, Montrose letting go of the woman. He let her go because if we kept her hostage, we would be no better than Titus, who, did the same thing, kept her hostage because of her knowledge and what she could encrypt. And Tick kind of has that same face that he has had for several episodes now, that what is being said now about his ancestors pertains to him right now. And he's done something to people, indigenous as people of a different race over there in the war in Korea, that he is not ready to talk about. Because we've, been put, gas and making everything hot, and, the horns as tactics that we've used over there. And now it's, holding people captive. He's done something and he's not ready to share it. But he tells Letty, like, he didn't actually let her go. Because Letty's still under the assumption that, he just let her go. Girl, go where? Where's she gonna go scream at? and go unnoticed with her two body parts. It's like, no, he killed her. And Let's like, it's not Montrose. This is evil. This is making all of this happen. No, it's about what we do with it. This is, to help us. It's not evil if we don't use it for evil. But look at all the contrast that's brought on us. Look what your dad did to protect you from this. Because we're under the impression that Montrose is trying to protect Tick. We cut back to Ruby trying to, sneak this encrypted stone, with that same writing on it from the pages into the captain's office. But before she could even think of where to put it, they're walking in. And she finds herself opening that closet. We knew something was in that closet from last episode. It's a whole person strung up, tongue cut out. They're coming. Ruby has to get inside of there with him. The captain is talking about the party and how it's going. And he takes off his shirt. Now, at first, I thought his body was covered in tattoos, but as we get a little closer, I'm like, is it hair? But it like stopped. I don't know. We really couldn't get a really good look at it. But, you know, he's going on and on about getting Christina completely out of the lodge, and Ruby's trying to keep this man muffled. Ruby is gotten herself into more than she bargained for. We cut back to her in the department store, and she's on Tamara about doing something wrong, shelving something wrong. And it's like, you know, you would know these things if you were properly educated in this field. Ruby, still Ruby, just her outward appearance has changed, but Ruby's mind state has always been Ruby's. Ruby feels like she's a credit to her race, a better colored person because she's educated, and feels like Tamara is lacking because she's not. She's not helping. Well, you know, maybe I could, you know, take you to the side, let me help. Like, no, you don't deserve to be here. Ruby is showing a lot of her true colors this episode. We kind of saw who Ruby was in a roundabout way, but Ruby is a product of her environment. But, you know, the owner comes over, he's trying to see what is okay, because Ruby is going, you know, white people are effed up, and you wind up in closets with your tongue cut out. They got all kinds of shit that we don't know about. What? But, you know, cuts it off with, you know, Tamara's going to take us to the south side. We get into the best scene yet. Like, I was hyped. If you are a fan of RuPaul's Drag Race, I'm sure you were hyped too. I wasn't even worried about Montrose. We got Shangela, Hallelujah. We got Monet Exchange, Soak It Up, Get Into It. And we got Noah from Noah's Ark. You know, Noah's Ark is like really, really throwback. It was my first depiction or look into, like as a teen, into gay life and gay man and them being bestie. The show was a whole vibe, all 2 seasons. Noah, Monet, and Shangela. I was beaming. But we see that Montrose, this is clearly what I said before, this is a thing. Like, are you guys official yet? Like, they ain't even kissed yet. They ain't ready to come out as a couple. Montrose not ready to, you know, be his true self. They haven't even kissed. They're not even a real thing yet. I'm already together. And we see that, you know, not only is Montrose partner, is he gay, but he also is, you know, into the drag culture, which is a big thing for back then. It was not just beginning, but just starting to come into its own back then. And it was just so shocking to see men be who they were in that aspect at those times. It was like non-existent. And if you were that, you had to be very hidden about it, very closed off about it. There were only, you know, certain places that even allowed you to be that out in the open. But we finally get what we want, right, Ruby? This is what you wanted. But when you got it, you realize this is not what I wanted. Because I see all these people basking in what I'm trying to run away from. And what I've got, this isn't even what I thought it was going to be. So we get another graphic, gruesome, bloody, disgusting scene of that skin falling off Ruby and her morphing back into her true self. I loved it. But, you know, after all that skin falls off, she hears something going on. You see the boss trying to have, you know, get sexual advances from Tamara. When we know from the previous, you know, he kissed my hand. He ever tried anything with you ladies? What, him? No. Not Mr. Married. He's never tried anything with us. But he thought, you know, with this colored woman, just let me smell it. Did y'all hear him say that? Just let me smell it. We could do that. I was like, oh. As soon as I saw that, I was like, oh, Ruby. Don't beat him up, Ruby. But we get this beautiful scene after that of this whole ballroom drag-esque culture for the 50s. You know, we weren't quite into ballroom yet, but this is, you know, the beginning stages. And we see at first Montrose is very much, you know, hidden off to the side, but we have boyfriend on stage who won second place, who looked good. Did y'all see him with his, I was like, all right. And, you know, he goes over to Montrose, who is here. He like, you're bold enough to be here in this space, but you're still in this space and you're still hiding. Goes over, you know, invites him over to dance. And I for a second, I thought Michael K. Williams was about to cut a step, because if you don't know, Michael K. Williams is a whole trained dancer out here, honey. Look it up. But no, we just get him, you know, getting more into the culture, dancing, becoming his full self. And we realize, like, how long has Montrose been not being able to live his truth and be himself? I'm sure it's been for a long time. And I feel like that's what we've been doing to, we've been using, you know, that violence, those outbursts, the abuse, the drinking to cover up who we really are. And that's why we get such, you know, brood. I don't need you to come help. I can help myself. Oh, but in the childhood, the everything that Montrose has been, I still think he knows more or is planning to do more than he's alluding to. But we see him kind of coming out. It was nice to see, because I'm not really messing with Montrose at this point, but it was nice to see. I like the whole scene. Cut back over to Ruby and Tammy on the south side. Haley on the south side. We get to the same thing we get to now. White people not wanting to deal with black people, not liking black people, but you guys want to be amongst black spaces in black culture. They were so excited, so hyped to go to the south side. We get to dance, we get to listen to real music. We get to look at black men and lust after them. They were too hyped to go to the south side. We don't like black people. We want to go over there though. Right after Montrose is done, you know, basking in glitter, it's like a whole church moment. He finally gets enough courage up to kiss in public. Or just kiss it all. And embrace him and embrace himself and embrace his partner. Beautiful moment for Montrose. High five to Montrose. We cut back to Ruby, who is sitting just bloody, whole bloody. Like, Ruby, go take a bath. Damn. Sitting there on that nice sofa, all bloody. Christina coming out of the basement. She says, you know, that's the only, you're not William, and that's the only room in this house that locks. What's in the basement? Doesn't say anything, but sits down and says, you know, oh, was Ruby interrupted again? He told you that? How long we gonna have to do this cat and mouse stuff with William, Christina? We know you're the same person. Stop. I hope the show is not like trying to this easy, like play off my, like, y'all know, I know you know that you know that I don't believe that this is, that William is his own separate person, right? Right? But okay. She, you know, sits there, because at first, you know, when she transformed, we seen Ruby, you know, break the vow, like, I don't want any parts of this anymore. I don't want any more of this potion, this magic. But she, you know, gives it back to her. You know, this wasn't a license just to be a white woman. This was a license to do whatever the hell you want to do. Who is Ruby really when she's interrupted? I knew that this is who Ruby was when she was interrupted. Ruby, which I knew that's where she was headed, you know, after that whole episode, like, oh, you nigger bitch. goes back into this white man's office, says, I'm quitting. He contemplating, I was gonna fire Tamara, and oh no, shut up. I'm here because I want to do some whole BBSM type situation, and we see, knots and belts around necks, and he'd been waiting on this moment his whole life. He was too into it. And as she's doing this and, having him suck her pump, the heel of her shoe, she's starting to morph. We see those eyes change. Gets him down on the ground and proceeds to pretty much rape him with a shoe. And there's blood and look very painful. And as she's doing this, she's morphing, she's, changing, all that skin is falling off. And to the backdrop of Cardi B, these is bloody shoes. So it's like, oh, this is this Cardi B episode, huh? But Ruby is all too into it. I was like, oh, let's not be murderous vigilante Ruby. Please, Ruby. But, after something like this, she didn't kill him, but this was, atrocious. Like, you're stooping to their level. Ruby is becoming, which she had already started with the, the skin, but in the process of that, with how she was, ridiculing Tamara and you don't deserve this, which was still, her mind state beforehand. But in this skin, she's becoming what she hates most. And this whole scene put a pin on that. Like, Ruby is done. This is a whole new Ruby. Ruby is out for blood. Ruby is out for revenge. I'm hoping it stops there, but once you do some stuff like this one time, it's down here from there. No, we get into this deep, endearing moment with Tick and Letty, and they're discussing, what love means to them and what they perceive love to be from their upbringing, mothers, fathers, all that and whatnot. And Letty says, I never want to be like my mom, jumping from man to man, falling in love so quickly. Ruby does that. Oh, really? And, Tick says, I'm tired of running from this. This is something special to me, and I'm trying to accept that now. I did have something with someone back in Korea, but, something happened, and I'm over that. And Letty also says, I didn't want to be that, so I didn't want to be just with anybody or be with any man unless I knew it was special. And they both confirm that what they have is special, and they share a bonding moment. Get that over there. Then we get to what I've been waiting for, what I've been saying episode after episode. William Christina. Not only has Christina given that potion to morph to Ruby, but she's been using it on herself to morph back and forth between William and Christina. Finally, that's out the way. I yelled with Ruby. She's like, you've been the same William all this time? You've been changing yourself into William all this time? Yes. All this time, even in Artem, in her own closed spaces. Phew. Glad that's out the way. We close the show with Tick, who's still, encrypting letters and going over, that symbol meaning protection and the symbols that are in his ring, that figuring out that those are his initials. He finally encrypts something, and I believe I heard him say suffer. The same thing, we heard the lady beaming down blood red in the from the UFO in the first episode, and we see him run to dial that same number that he dialed in episode 1 to call Korea. And it's that same voice, who said, you shouldn't have left. He hung up. But, he's, how did you know? Who are you? What are you? Like, this is beyond me. This is beyond Artem. This is beyond Chicago. This has followed me all the way over to the war in Korea. Somebody knew who I was before I even knew who I was. Anything about these ancestors and all this stuff going on. Who are you? Aha, we got a new mystery. So there's a bigger plot as a whole. But he didn't just say, who are you? No, what are you? Which could be a billion things at this point with William, Christina, and Haley Ruby. Anybody could be anybody at this point. But that was this episode. This episode was really good. Wasn't it good? This episode was really good. If you haven't already, please subscribe. I'm ready for episode 6. Hope you guys are. Hope you guys come back to listen to me talk about episode 6 and we can get into that. I see you guys later. Bye.